following is a video presentation of a worship service at Orrville Baptist Church.
If you would look at your bulletin on the back page of that to the weekly calendar and the announcements. We have several announcements this morning. First of all, a reminder that the annual meeting for the Salute Baptist Association is tonight at 5:30 at Concord, so our messengers will be there for that tonight. Also upcoming this week on Tuesday, October the 22nd at 5 o'clock, the Church Roll Advisory Committee is going to be meeting in the library. This committee consists of myself, Carol Gurley, Charlene Burnett, Ann McLean, and Tommy Johnson. So we'll be beginning our work this coming Tuesday. On Wednesday at 6 o'clock, we'll have our backpacking time for the food pantry in the Hayes building, and then choir practice to follow at 7. We had a really good time of fellowship last Wednesday, a good time of eating together and fellowshipping with one another. This is something that we hope to continue to do once a month on the third Wednesday of every month. So we'll look forward to doing that again in November. And we were glad to see so many of you there. And I want you to know that you're more than welcome to come back this coming Wednesday too, 6 o'clock in the Hayes building. Then on Thursday, 9 o'clock, we will be departing for the Justice Apple Orchard on the church bus. We will stop for lunch and return sometime between 3 and 4 p.m. So if you haven't signed up for that, there's still an opportunity to do so on the sign-up sheet in the back. And if you look at the announcements, if you have any offering envelopes, any tithing envelopes left over from previous years, If you would like, we would like you to turn those in to the church. We have so many of them that are left over from previous years, people that either don't get their boxes or extra boxes and stuff like that. So we're going to reuse those this year to be a little bit frugal with our money and to make sure that we don't waste those. So if you have any that are left over, I'll have a drop box in the vestibule. You can just bring them by and drop them in, and we will relabel those and we'll reuse them for this upcoming year. Also, don't forget the trunk or treat is October the 31st, a week from Wednesday at 5:30. If you have candy, it's still not too late to bring that. You just bring it by next Sunday, and we'll make sure that it gets out to the kids. And then on November the 3rd, we're going to have a church-wide fellowship after the service that day in the Hayes building. So we will look forward to that good time together. As far as I know, it'll be a covered dish, so just bring whatever you would like to bring, and we'll enjoy a good time of fellowship together. If you look at the prayer list, we have several names, several updates I need to give you. Bessie Oxley is in the hospital. She broke her hip sometime very recently. I do not know the room number on that yet, but we'll work to get that information out to you. But she is in Anthem with a broken hip. Also remember Susan Mobley should be having outpatient back surgery coming up on Tuesday, the 22nd. So we need to remember her. Tracy Owens is a new addition to our prayer list, the daughter-in-law of Evelyn Wayne Owens, so need to remember her as well. Continue to remember Ellen Carver, also Sue Chastain, Dwayne Waters, and Sue Waters. Continue to remember all these that we have on our prayer list as you go to the Lord in prayer during the week.
Thank We're going to go to James chapter 1, verses 1 through 12, and I'll be reading that in a moment. But I wish I really had the hope, if I could preach it all in one sermon, I'd do it. But I do want to, after I read it, I do want to say a little bit about James, the book of James, before we go to those specific verses. So let's read these first 12 verses. Just follow as I read, starting with James chapter 1, verse 1, going through 12. James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations, greetings. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds. Are y'all ready to stop? Isn't that a verse that challenges. Because you know that testing of your faith develops perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. But when he asks, he must believe and not doubt, because he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That man should not think that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all he does. The brother, in humble circumstances, ought to take pride in his high position. But the one who is rich should take pride in his low position, because he will pass away like a wild flower. For the sun rises with scorching heat and withers the plant. Its blossom falls and its beauty is destroyed. In the same way, the rich man will fade away, even while he goes about his business. And then verse 12, blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. Wasn't too long ago, maybe a couple of years back, it seems like a year is not too long ago anymore. And but some time ago, I remember going by my son's house, and he and his son were out in the garage area, and they were working on a lawnmower, riding lawnmower. They had it jacked up and doing some work on it, and then I noticed he came to a place and he stopped and he didn't know exactly what to do, and he went over to his computer. He had a computer out there, a laptop computer, and he went over and he looked at something, and it was on YouTube. And he came back to the lawnmower and he went on and he got that fixed, whatever he was working on at that point. He found something that would help him to do it on his own. And I remember one time one of the keys off of my wife's computer, it came off, and she didn't know exactly how to go about putting it back on, but she went to another computer and she found on YouTube how to repair and put that key cover back on the correct key. So there's a lot that you can learn on a computer. A lot of how to do things. So it was there. And today's technology, you can just about find a YouTube event of how to do it just about on anything that you want to find out. And today we're going to be looking at this first verses, but all of the book of James, and this is why I want to spend just a little bit, because the book of James is a very practical book. It's a how-to-do-it book. You can find instructions for life and godliness here in this book. And so I would just, James always meets the problem, whatever it is, head on. His subjects are as relevant today in 2019 as when he penned them years and years ago. How to face trials, how to obtain wisdom, how to communicate with one another, and so much more. But James is in his writing, he's so deeply concerned that believers would have an active and vital Christian lifestyle. And he wanted Christians to have the very best that God had to offer. So I challenge you, even though we can't get to this whole book this morning, I challenge you to read this book this week. It will reinvigorate you. It will challenge you. It's short and it's easy to read. It's not hard to understand as you seek to live out life every day of this week. So that would be something, a challenge for you to do. And from the very beginning, James here, we learned this was written by James. You know, there's several James in the Bible. But this happens to be James, the half-brother of Jesus, that wrote this. We believe that he was the one that penned this letter under the direction of the Holy Spirit. And I just, I keep wondering about him being a half-brother of Jesus. I've often wondered. Someone came up and asked me about my sister who used to come here, Sandra and Bill Martin, and right before church. And, Sandra in my family, she was the oldest, and I never heard my mother have to get after my older sister. It was like she was perfect, and the rest of us were just scoundrels. But I don't ever remember my mother having to correct her. And she was always like that. And I wondered how it would be like to be can you imagine being the brother or the sister of Jesus? Jesus, who always would come to the table when his mother announced it, and who would always wash his hands, who would always do those chores on time and whatever was. Jesus was perfect. And he always obeyed. So can you imagine being the brother or sister of Jesus? And that was James. I'm sure when Jesus left home, James could breathe a sigh of relief that he wasn't around anymore to be compared with that. And then one day Jesus comes back to town saying, "Hey, I'm the Messiah." I wonder how James felt at that time. Well, we don't have to wonder because the Scripture really does speak to it. In John 7:5 it says, "For even his own brothers did not believe him." Even his own brothers didn't believe him. Mark 3:21 tells us, when his family heard about this, they went to take charge of him, for they said he is out of his mind. That's what they thought. James really was skeptic at that point, in a state of disbelief about his brother being the Messiah. But now we see that James has gone through a transformation, a state of being born again. He has a change of heart. And in his self-introduction, he calls himself James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ. Here is a changed man, even as he is the brother of Christ. Later on in 1 Corinthians 15:7, Paul gave a glimpse of Jesus appearing to his brother James. James was gathered in the upper room with the disciples after the return to heaven, and also in Acts 1:4 there. James really became a very important and integral part of the beginning of the early church. And as a leader of the Jerusalem church, James knew Paul and saw that the gospel would go to the Gentiles. He saw the persecution, James did, of that increased as the gospel went forward. And so James greets the 12 tribes scattered among the nations. Actually, he's addressing you and he's addressing me this morning. And the letter is, as the letter is addressed to the church through all generations. And that is you and that's me. In James' day, the Christians who were persecuted and scattered had lost most everything in order to be faithful to Christ. Churches scatter for different reasons, folks. They do scatter. But if you notice in the New Testament, wherever they scattered, new believers sprung up. New churches went up. So scattering the church was not necessarily a negative thing. Oh, it upset people because they wouldn't be with the same people anymore. But hey, it was not. It was always a good thing because this was not about them. It was about God. So most of the people lost everything in order to be faithful to God. Many were young in their faith and they needed a practical instruction about living the Christian life in a hostile world. There would be times in my work and Trudy's work in the Philippines. It was back when Marcos was the dictator of that country, and they were rebels against. They were a rebel factor there. And I would be prepared to go on a Sunday morning, maybe to preach in a village church somewhere, and I would receive word, hey folks, that village is no more there. The rebels have come in and they have caused the village to disband and leave, and that church would be no more. But all of a sudden, I recognized that these people would go to other places to live, and there would be new believers to spring up, and new churches to spring up. So James greets the 12 tribes here, scattered among the nations. Many of them were young in their faith, but the scattered church at that time, the scattered church at this time needs a lifeline. I don't know about you, but at times there, I need a lifeline. I need a good word from the Lord. But James can be that lifeline that we need when things can go wrong. So study James. Study James. James pens this letter about what it is to live real life and live out your real faith in a very hostile world. Does anyone dispute that we live in a hostile world today? The theme of James's letter is real faith will always produce genuine work. In other words, the person who has truly come to Jesus to walk in faith, James is saying, if you have really accepted Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, then let your life give evidence of that. He's saying that, hey, if you claim to be a born-again believer, you cannot do anything but good works. James then moves quickly into teaching about the times in which where the rough gets rough. And none of us, we walk along in a normal heartbeat and a normal rhythm of life, but sometimes there's some things that come along in life. The life of individuals, the life of a church, the life of a city, and no one escapes hurt. No one escapes heartaches and pain and problems. No one escapes disappointments. No one escapes discouragement and sickness and suffering. No one escapes diseases and death. Any of you had any of these? You might be walking in them now. As individuals, as a church, no matter how hard we are trying to keep things going in the normal way that we've always wanted them to go, we simply cannot escape the disharmony of rough times in life. This church, your church, actually God's church, right? Things are changing around you. Did you look on the front page of the Anderson Independent? There's an article this morning about Homeland Park and the changes that have been through the years. It's changing around you. You're in rough times. Listen to what it says there in James 2:4. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds. That just takes my breath away. You know? Every time I want to complain about maybe a health issue or growing older, you know, I look around at somebody else my age, and they just don't give me the time of day. They don't care. You know? They just look at you, so what? Hard times come to us all, do they not? Consider it pure joy to face trials. Is James really serious here? Is he really serious? Most of us do everything possible to avoid the trials of life. And I want to say one other thing about my brother-in-law that you asked me, my sister. My brother-in-law, he's about 84 years of age, but when he was about 71, he began to show signs of Parkinson's disease. And he's been fighting that now for almost 15 years ago. His mind today is still as bright as it ever was, but his body is crumbled. His body is just one mess. He is in pain and he is in distress. But there's something in his mind that years ago he chose joy. Amen. He chose joy in the midst of that, and he has peace. And folks, the people that have to take care of him, they all love him because of his attitude. He chose joy. James's audience knew about trials. My suspicion this morning as I speak to you is that you know something about trials. And James addressed the persecuted believers with a single greeting, greetings. The Greek word for the greeting is rejoice. What a contrast to their day-by-day experience. Rejoice? Really? But James is setting the tone here for the teaching of his whole letter. He leaps headfirst into a discourse on trials. He's going to go right to the bottom of where they need to work. The word James uses for trial here is paramus. Trials, that meaning trials can mean tests that test the very integrity of your faith and your belief. Trials can also mean temptations, those things that appeal to our sinful tendencies. But in today's passage, James is referring to the first, those things that will challenge even our beliefs. And beginning in verse 13, James moves there in verses 1 to 13. No, James does not say if you face trials. He says when you face trials, does he? Isn't that what he says in your case? When you face trials, count it your joy. Where did he come from here? Count on it. The trials will come. Count on it. The trials will come. In fact, if you're free of trials right now, just wait. They're coming around the mountain again. And you'll go through them again. They're going to come in your life. That's just life itself. James says trials of many kinds. We can expect trials, but we do not know what form they will take. Trials of all shapes and sizes come into our life, often too long, do they not? They may be frequent. And most all-time trials are frustrating. They may be large trials, and they may be life-changing. But James reveals the working of trials to those who are suffering in his day. And he brings that word to you and me today. So one truth, if you happen to be writing this down, you can write this down. Trials produce immediate and ultimate results. He says in verse 2, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work so that you might be mature and complete, not lacking anything." Notice what is being tested by our trials. God is testing our faith. James writes, and you could write this down as part of the outline. I need to look beyond my trial and celebrate the ultimate, the finished result. Some people that I think highly of as having strong Christian character they've learned how to handle the trials that come their way. They don't do it by sight, but they do it by faith. I remember the mother. She actually grew up with our family, and my wife taught her when she was 6th grade, and we watched her grow up to become a missionary and served alongside of us, living in Thailand at that time. And one day, as her family, which included 3 children, and one of them was a 9-year-old boy, they were on a family picnic down next to some waterfalls in Thailand. And he says, "Mom, can I get in the water?" And he just arrived there, and before she could even answer, he was off. And he got on the top of the waterfall, and it was slippery, and he went off. And he was unconscious and later died, and just maybe 3 or 4 days later died. And here she was. The family had to deal with this ordeal of getting his body prepared and making decisions about how to send them back, how they would go back to the USA. But the mother, she was able, they were able to take this and deal with the ordeal. But at the same time, they were thinking of why they were there in this country. And they wanted their Thai friends to know of their faith in Jesus, even in the middle of this horrible death. And then I remember the father who lost the job and came home to gather his family around him and thank God for his family, while asking God to give him guidance in what step he would take next. And he waited for what seemed too long to see how God would provide for him. And you know what God did? Amen. The teenager, maybe you've had a teenager, or maybe you have teenage grandchildren who does not surrender his or her principles in life, despite the crowd that finds it amusing, maybe to even make fun of these teenagers. You see, a completeness and a wholeness just comes out of us when we hang in there and we patiently wait for God by faith. So consider it pure joy. It is a choice. It will be a choice, and it is a choice. Consider to lead. The word pictures someone leading a procession. Let pure joy be the emotion through which all the other attitudes go. Do not misunderstand here. James is not saying to fake it. You don't have to fake it. Philip Yancey writes that James is not meaning to say grin and bear it or act tough, because Christianity is not phony. And you dear people know that. It is not phony. And as we walk in faith, many thoughts and emotions come to the surface. There's a lot of pain that comes along with walking in faith. A lot of sorrow, a lot of lostness, a lot of loneliness, a lot of uncertainty. But James is saying to, hey, just take another look. Just reframe it. Don't just focus on one place, but broaden your view so that you can see it all. Because what you're looking at, that little spot of gloom in your life, will look different. And it will come to glory one day. I don't know if you know anything about the Navy SEALs. I know very little about it, what I've read. But the Navy SEALs are one of the most extreme groups in our armed services. They are tough people. They can live and work in the harshest conditions. And that lesson that they learn is learned in what they call Hell Week. They endured 5 days, it says, in my reading, about 5 days of just constant motion, going and going. No sleep, but no sleep with physical, and they got a lot of physical stuff going on, a lot of mental stress going on. All of that to break down a person and make them fall out. One Navy psychologist and a U.S. Marine says Hell Week requires 90% mental and only 10% physical strength and capability. But when Christians face trial, 90% of it is mental and spiritual. You say 90% of it is mental and spiritual together. It is allowing, when we are stressed, it's allowing God to guide you to walk centered in His way. While the trial is not a happy experience, and I don't know that any of us would say it's a happy experience what we're going through, it will produce something very valuable in life. Look at what James writes in verses 3 and 4. You know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. We gain endurance from testing our faith. Endurance transforms into maturity. Maturity ultimately leads to the greater character that God wants us to have. James encourages you and me to let perseverance finish its work of developing our Christian character. So how can you and I rise above the troubles that we face? First of all, we choose joy. And it is a choice, folks. It is a choice. We focus on the process that God is working out in the trial, and we cooperate with Him in the entire process. James realizes the reason that trials overwhelm us is our lack of wisdom. He notices that, and he realizes that is our lack of wisdom. We do not know what to do sometimes. Isn't that right? Have you ever been there that you just didn't know what to do in the situation that you are facing? Maybe you're there this morning. Maybe you're here this morning and you do not know what to do. You know you need to be wise. But what does that mean to be wise? Look at what James says, and that would be number 2 if you're writing on an outline. When trouble comes, it is essential that I respond with wisdom. So, wisdom in your family, wisdom in this church, wisdom in the world. Where do we get this wisdom? Well, we get it from God. We get it from God. How do we get it? We ask Him. Listen to verse 5 through 7. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. But when he asks, he must believe and not doubt, because he who doubts is like the wave of the sea, blown and tossed about the wind. That man should not think he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all he does. When you and I feel ill-equipped to face what life is throwing at us, we need to ask for wisdom. God has the resources that you need individually. He has the resources that this church needs for everyday life and for godliness. Do you believe that this morning? Say amen if you believe that. He has everything we need for life and godliness. Ask God, but ask God in faith. And he says in verse 8, but when he asks, he must believe, not doubt. The opposite of faith is doubt. James compares the person who doubts to the surf of the sea, driven by the wind. Notice James calls the person who doubts as double-minded. James may actually he could have invented that word, which in Greek means two-souled. It means purify your hearts, you double-minded. The doubting Christian has an impure inner person, where there should be one thought, one goal, one attitude, one devotion. The doubter will always have 2 competing thoughts. That kind of person is unstable. Sometimes we want to ask God for something and still have it work out. Whose way? Our way. We want it to work out our way, don't we? I like that. I like my way as well as you like your way. We like it like that. It's the easiest way. Sometimes I don't want to give up my way. You probably will never use this bit of information I'm going to give you. But y'all know how to catch a monkey? You probably don't, but there's one way to catch a monkey. Is you've seen a long-armed gourd, gourd. Well, in the Philippines, if these folks wanted to catch a monkey, they would get one of these long-armed gourds, and then they would cut the end off of it and dry it out, and they would clean it out as much as they could from that long end, and they would put rice down into this gourd. And the monkey they'd place it in a place where monkeys were known to travel, and that monkey would come along, and he would reach down into that gourd and grab a handful of rice. And you know what? That he's greedy. That monkey is bent on getting all of that handful of rice out. And you know what? His hand will not come out. When it got that fist wound up and that handful of rice, that fistful of rice, he cannot get his arm out, and he will not release that rice. He will clutch the rice and try to pull his hands out. But his fist is bigger than the neck of that gourd. He has to let go in order to be set free. And that kind of describes the double-minded Christian. Because inside the gourd is what I want. And there's one thing that I've found out in life. Is that it's not about me. Have y'all finally figured that out? It's not about you. It is rarely about us. It is always about God. It's always about God's will, what He wants. And the other part, He lets us have. But He wants His way. So when a trial comes, and you put your mind on anything you want to focus on, when trial comes, if I refuse to release my grip and trust the plan of God, then I am trapped. I am trapped. If I refuse to give my way away, I am trapped. I lack the wisdom to realize that by letting go of my will, God can do His perfect work. When trials come, I need to seek God's wisdom and obey His truth. I need to let go and let God do the work. Next, when trials come, I need to respond with faith. Wisdom and faith are required for both the rich and the poor. The brother, in verse 9, the brother in humble circumstances ought to take pride in his high position, but the one who is rich should take pride in his low position, because he will pass away like a wildflower. For the sun rises with the scorching heat and withers the plant, its blossoms fall, and its beauty is destroyed. In the same way, the rich man will fade away, even while he goes about his business. Blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, because when he stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who live. So this morning, the question comes, are you living life wisely and in faith? If so, you're blessed indeed. James ends the passage with this truth. Blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love Him. Things go wrong in life. We all face trials, but the one who endures in those hard times has stood the test. He receives the crown of life that God has promised to all who love Him. That crown may be eternity. You know, I see many people who are deathly sick, and we pray for them. You're praying for some now. And you know, God doesn't always heal them here, does He? He doesn't heal our loved ones necessarily all the time in this life. Sometimes they die and they go on to be with Him where they are really healed. They are ultimately healed for eternity. That healing takes place. So that crown may be in eternity, but I fully believe that God has a crown for each of us here, even in our daily walk with Him. Those who faithfully walk in God's way will be rewarded in this life, I do believe, with maturity. He'll give us wisdom, and He will give us insight into His plan and to His purpose. That's real life on this earth at its best. So today, if you're wounded and you're hurting, if you're facing the unknown, if you're going through a season of sorrow and pain, just seek God. Trust Him, even if it seems that He is not there or not listening. For you see, the person who is faithful and loving, faithfully in love with God will get his reward. And the reward is have more life and more life and more life. So are you experiencing God, all that God intended for you to have? Don't settle for less, friend. Center your life in the truth of God's Word. We're going to have our invitation hymn. We're going to ask you, if maybe you need to respond this morning in some way. Maybe God's been speaking to your heart this morning. And you need to just let Him have His way in your life. If you need to respond, come down and pray, or respond in some way, you come and I'll be here at the front, and you come as God